Matters pertaining to grief and loss. Tools and resources for hope amidst suffering. Biblical principles to shed light in the darkness. This is the Grief Speak Podcast.
Welcome to episode 9 of the Grief Speak Podcast. This is Jacob
and Cory,
and this is our second episode in our 10-part series that will discuss some topics within my book, Battles in the Promised Land, Suffering, Hope, and the Abundant Christian Life. Hopefully you tuned into episode 8, which was the first in the series, where we looked at the topic of surrender as we saw Joshua starting to enter the Promised Land after years of wandering and waiting. Today we're going to see him finally enter. We're going to see the first battle. So the Promised Land signifies abundance of life. It's a land flowing with milk and honey. Though there's battles. There's one battle after another, the whole book of Joshua. And so they finally enter, and they're told to trust God no matter where they go. I want to read to you the calling on. We read it last episode a little bit, but the calling that God placed on Joshua in Joshua 1:6-9. He said, "Be strong and courageous." By the way, he had to remind him of that 3 times in the calling. Be strong and courageous. "For you shall cause this people to inherit the land that I swore to their fathers to give them. Only be strong and very courageous, being careful to do according to all the law that Moses my servant commanded you. Do not turn from it to the right hand or to the left, that you may have good success wherever you go. This book of the law shall not depart from your mouth, but you shall meditate on it day and night, so that you may be careful to do according to all that is written in it. For then you will make your way prosperous, and then you will have good success. Have I not commanded you? Be strong and courageous. Do not be frightened. Do not be dismayed, for the Lord your God is with you wherever you go." Okay, so here's the thing with Joshua. This is the calling. He hasn't gone through, crossed the Jordan, but eventually he did. And God had told him this, and he saw, just as I was with Moses, the same way he parted the Red Sea, parted the Jordan. So it's okay. God's with us. But then this last part of the calling is the Lord your God is with you wherever you go. And he's saying you gotta follow me. Don't turn from the right or to the left of what I say. That's where the victory comes. Now the thing is, God doesn't tell Joshua right here what they're doing. He doesn't. He says, wherever you go, I'll be with you. Do whatever I say. I'll be with you wherever you go. Well, where is it we're going? We're going to the promised land. Well, what are we? How are we doing that? Just do what I say. Well, Joshua's not questioning,
Sure.
But I think often we would, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Do you understand all the hardship you faced in your life, Cory?
Oh, no, not all of it. No.
Would you have picked that for your path of your life?
Oh, I know I wouldn't. That'd be.
Yeah, right.
My laziness.
Oh, yeah, right. And if you're tuning into this podcast, it's because you've experienced grief of some kind. You wouldn't have picked that as your path. But we were told to trust God and follow Him wherever it is we go. How do we do that?
By faith.
By faith. Faith in what?
In God.
In God.
Yeah.
Often I think that we say we have faith in God, but our faith is really in maybe I have faith in God's plan. We think it's faith in God, but really we have faith in this laid out version of this is what I want you to do. Do you see what I'm saying? We have faith in the plan rather than the planner. Right.
Yeah, maybe even we make a plan and then we insert God into it.
Never did that before. It's like God, here is my prayer. I'm completely surrendered to you, like last episode. And this is my prayer. Would you do this, and this, and that is your will, right?
That's right.
And I will follow you, God, when you do this.
Right. That's
this.
right.
But what happens when when that plan goes awry.
Oh, we get disappointed.
Yeah. Maybe we even doubt the goodness of God.
That's it. Yeah.
Right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. We start questioning.
God, are you really with me?
Right.
He promised Joshua, I'll be with you wherever you go. Now think about this, Cory, and listener. What was the first battle that they came up to in the Promised Land? Jericho. Okay. Now tell me a little about Jericho, Cory.
Well, it was a fairly big city. Had a very big wall. Okay. And from what I remember from VeggieTales,
dude, completely. Hey, old VeggieTales, it is okay to get some of your theology from old school VeggieTales.
That's right. No, but it was a massive
fortified city.
Yeah.
Okay. And so Joshua, here he is, new leader after Moses, this greatest leader, and he has an army with him. They're going to go attack. He knows they're going to wage war to obtain the promised land. He knows God's with him. God's just said, follow me, do exactly as I say. Don't sway from the right or to the left, and I'll be with you wherever you go. What was the battle plan for Jericho?
Yeah. Well, it was definitely not run and attack.
It wasn't what Joshua would have picked, right?
No, not at all.
It wasn't how that army likely trained.
Mm-mm.
Here was the battle plan. Joshua, I want you to take the musicians, put them up front. Now, does that sound right?
No.
No, put the people with swords and bows and arrows or whatever, shields up front. No, put the musicians up front. Mm-hmm. Okay, what do we do now? Do we use them as a barrier to shoot our? No, I want you to walk around the city. Mm-hmm. What? Walk around, do that 7 days, okay? Then on the last, do it 7 times. And then what? Then we attack them? I want you to shout really loud. Yeah. It's like, this is the battle plan the first battle that they face going into the Promised Land.
Absolutely.
Okay. Does this add up on paper, Cory?
Oh, not from our perspective, no.
Oh, no. Yeah. Not at all.
Yeah.
Not at all. You observe any aspect of this, and you would have to see and say that there's no way we can win. Mm. No way we can win. But whose plan was it?
It was God's plan.
It was God's plan. And what do? They
obey.
They obey, and they win. The walls came tumbling down. What can this teach us, Cory?
Well, first and foremost, God does things for God's glory. Yeah. And that was definitely going to happen in this situation.
Absolutely. Joshua and the army, they didn't win that.
No.
It was only by God.
God gave them the victory. And it was something that years later other nations knew about.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, this news traveled.
Yeah.
And but that same principle doesn't change for us too.
Right.
So even what we're dealing with, God's doing it for God's glory.
Yeah.
So that's something to keep in mind.
Absolutely.
And we have to approach faith over our expectations.
Ooh.
It's got to be.
Yeah.
It's got to be that, like we said, surrender earlier. Real faith means I'm trusting over whatever.
Right.
Happens in front of me.
Yeah. Yeah. Expectations. That's a big one.
Yeah.
I think often we expect God to act a certain way, or expect He won't allow me to go through this, or
oh man, in whatever suffering or grief or loss. I mean, because all that ruins our plans.
Oh yeah,
anything that causes hurt goes against our plans.
Yeah,
and then that questions our faith. Makes us back up.
Yeah. And so our faith shouldn't be in the plan.
Right.
It should be in the planner. How do we do that? So I was talking to you right before we started recording this about a movie I like. Frozen 2. You haven't seen it.
No, not all the way, no.
Well, you should. I really do love it. It is a lot about grief. There is a scene in that movie where Anna, the younger sister, sorry, if your listener haven't watched this, spoiler alert, okay, believes her sister died, and she's grieving. And then there's this heartfelt song. First time I heard it, I just sat there and sobbed. But she starts singing, I'm not going to look too far ahead. It's much more than I can take. But she's going to boil it down to this next step, this next breath is all that I can take. But the song is called Do the Next Right Thing. I want to encourage you. One good book to read about suffering is by Elizabeth Elliot. She knew suffering well. Had two husbands who had died. One of them was a missionary to Ecuador who was speared to death on a missionary journey to Ecuador. Read that book. Watch the movie End of the Spear. Her husband was Jim Elliot. Well, anyway, she has a book called Suffering is Never for Nothing. But she talks about this. Really, it's this where the song came from, the writers for the song in Frozen. But she said there's an old legend, I'm told, inscribed in a parsonage in England somewhere on the seacoast, a Saxon legend that says, do the next thing. I don't know any simpler formula for peace, she said, for relief from stress and anxiety than that very practical, very down-to-earth word of wisdom, do the next thing. She says that has gotten me through more agonies than anything else I could recommend. I want you to think about that. When you have faith in God, in the planner rather than the plan, you don't have to know what's down the road in order to be obedient to God right now.
That's right. Absolutely.
So what is that? How do we apply that within our suffering, in our grief?
Well, it means we keep pushing forward. We don't let ourselves walk away from God, number one. But number two, we realize that our story's not done yet. And the author of our story is still writing. And so we need to do the next thing. And trust that that's part of faith, is we're trusting He knows best.
Right. Even when we can't see it, don't understand it.
Right.
Absolutely. And I think faith and obedience go hand in hand.
Oh, absolutely. I don't think you can have one without the other.
I don't think you can.
I think there's a whole book of James about that.
Faith without works is dead.
That's right.
But really, But when our faith is in a plan instead of the planner, that's when we crumble in our grief.
Oh, yeah.
That's when we get lost in it and we don't see the sunshine at all. Darkness all around. We give in to the darkness is when it causes us to forget God's with us.
It's where we have to cling to that Romans 8:28.
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely.
And I know.
Tell the listener what that says.
Romans 8:28 says, and I'm going to quote it wrong, but
it's all right.
All things work for the good of those who
love Him, those who are called according to His purpose.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Amen. And God works all things for good.
That's right.
And it's not some things. It's not the things I understand, the things I see Him working for good. All
and
things.
In the moment, we don't want to hear that.
Yeah.
But it still doesn't mean it's not true.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And whether or not we want to hear it is we need to let ourselves think it.
Right.
And come back to it.
Yeah. So we want to encourage you, dear listener. You may not understand why you're going through what you're going through. You may not understand why you lost that loved one, why your grief won't go away. I want to encourage you, you don't have to know in order to trust. You don't have to see even the good that comes out of the situation to be able to trust that God is working good. And you can continue to live even though you've faced death because God is with you wherever you go.
Amen.
And so I want to close with part of a little excerpt from the book. If you haven't got the book, you can find it on any platform. where you buy books, Amazon. You can find it, a signed copy. You can buy it, battlesinthepromisedland.com. We do have 8 more episodes coming that will hit on different topics found within this book. But regarding trusting the planner over the plan, I want you to hear this excerpt. So many people place their faith in a plan, sometimes even God's plan. But the object of our faith should not be in a plan. It should be in the planner. When your faith is in a plan and the details of the plan go awry, faith deteriorates. Nights become long. Worry and fear weaken your resolve to go on, let alone stick to the plan. And when something happens that supposedly doesn't line up with our expectations of the plan, we are left disappointed. We begin to question our faith. We blame God, and often we stop obeying Him altogether, assuming we misinterpreted His direction from the start. But when our faith is in the planner, it doesn't matter what the plan is. It doesn't matter where you go or which route you take. It doesn't matter how many twists and turns there are or what happens to you or around you. You trust the one who is in charge and in control to guide you through each step. Joshua lived this out. It didn't matter what the plan was. He knew that he needed to follow God's ways, not his own. Are you following your own way, or are you seeking and trusting God's way with each step you take?
Amen.